Asking for help, asking questions is not a sign of weakness. It's deploying curiosity. And that goes back to what I've said about it enables us to grow. It brings that learning that we need to develop. And if the goal is to advance in your career or to learn new things, none of that's going to happen if you don't, ask questions or take risks. So if I could go back and talk to my younger self, it would be exactly that.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MindShift Show. And today we're talking about getting out of our comfort zone. And what does that mean? Every time that we step out of our comfort zone into a new zone and creating new opportunities for ourselves, we have an extraordinary guest, Jazmin Diaz, who's going to be talking about how to get out of the comfort zone, how she's helping others get out of the comfort zone, and tips to make us even more successful. Welcome, Jazmin Diaz.
Thank you so much, Rocio, for having me. It's really great to be here with you and talk about such an important topic that I think a lot of us are very familiar with, and it's presented to us at one point or another in our life.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. And I find it, Jazmin, you've lived outside of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Give us your definition of what a comfort zone is.
Yeah. So, the way I think about comfort zone, it's this state that we get into when we've, plateaued or flatlined in a sense. And when I talk about it, I'm talking about this in the context of career progression or professional development, right? So staying in the comfort zone is you're comfortable, you're relaxed, can do your job with your eyes closed, if
Maybe
you
you're
will.
swimming backwards, just
Yeah, it's
passive.
easy. It comes easy. It's natural. You're not feeling that challenge or that uncomfortable feeling, which tells us a lot.
Wow. Now tell us why it's important to get out of it. I know that sometimes we get very comfy and it feels great. We feel like we're coasting. I- Why is it important to get out every single time?
Yeah, I really believe that if your personal goal is to grow, to advance your career, to learn new things, that's impossible to do if you don't get out of your comfort zone. Right. So that for me, it resonates deeply because the reason I've been able to progress in my career and achieve certain goals that I've set out for myself is because I've done exactly that, gotten out of my comfort zone, even in times where I was terrified and would use excuses for my own self to stay in my comfort zone. The rewards from choosing to get out of it have been just exponential. And not that doesn't mean necessarily from a financial, but more just self-rewarding for myself.
So give us some examples of where you stepped out of the comfort zone and you're like, ooh, was it uncomfortable? What did it feel like? How did you encourage yourself to continue stepping out of it?
Yeah, in my career personally, there was a pivotal moment in my life. I started my career, very young in the public education system, and there was a point in time where my life, my husband and I, our children, it demanded more from us financially. And we had decisions to make. And one of them was, well, maybe it's time for me to look at another career that can potentially bring some more revenue to the family to help us live more comfortable or do a lot of the things that we aspire to do as a family. And so at that point in time for me, Rocio, was when I had made a decision to, you know what, I'm going to join corporate America. I'm going to get into tech because I hear all these great stories about people, having financial means, getting bonuses, stocks, all these things that I thought, yeah, that I thought would be just amazing for my family. And at that point in time, you heard me say earlier, I even made a list of excuses as why I shouldn't when I actually got the job opportunity. I was in my own head like, no, 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 you're going to fail. And what if this doesn't work out? And was telling myself of all the reasons I should stay put, stay comfortable. So for me, it was a big leap of faith and the ambition, the driving force being my family to provide more and a different lifestyle, that I made the decision to go for it and you know what, not fear the uncomfortable. I wanted to do more, and to do that I had to get out of my comfort zone. So for me, that's one big pivotal moment for me where I not to say I wasn't scared or terrified, because I was, but then once I jumped in, it was a sink or swim type of mentality. And I embraced it and didn't run from it and leaned into the learning curves which helped me get to where I am today in my career.
What was your daily practice? Because everybody's asking about how did you get there, right? There's a point in time, how did you coach yourself? Did you get up in the morning? Did you look in the mirror? Did you do affirmations? What did you do to get you more comfortable with the uncomfortable?
Yeah, I love that question because I often, when I have conversations, especially with early in career folks, that's one of the guiding nuggets of advice that I give them. And it's deploy curiosity, ask questions, and with that, do your own research, do your homework as well. Right. So for me, when I broke through into corporate America, my first and foremost priority was learn, where I'm going, the company I was joining. Once I was there, it was learn who the characters are, who's running the company, who are the decision makers, who are the people that I need to that I work with the most, that I need to learn most about their business to be an effective business partner. And what does that look like? And what does success look like for the company? So, once I started data gathering or getting all this information together to help myself, the dots started connecting, which then in turn enabled me to run faster and take on more projects, raise my hand to take on more responsibility, which kept, guess what, making me uncomfortable, but it kept pushing that learning for myself, which, allowed me to continue on this path of professional development.
I think that's fascinating when we invite ourselves to continue. Because I remember at the beginning of my career, I had never been inside of retail. All of a sudden, I find myself managing a large store. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. And I had to continue every single day. Like, okay, Rocio, wake up. You've got to do this. You've got this. You've got this. You've got this. And you've got it became, I did have it. And you're right. When we become unfamiliar with the unfamiliar, because everything is unfamiliar to begin with until it becomes familiar, that we start to connect who are the groups, who are the team leaders, what are the projects. We start to get out of the comfort zone in our own time and
Mhm.
start to work out even better than what we could have ever imagined when we are there. So
Yeah.
what tips would you give people? Somebody may be struggling there at the beginning of their career. What do you say? Or maybe even in a moment, we'll talk about maybe they're mid level, maybe that they're towards the end of their career. We all get stuck at one point or another in our lives. What do you recommend so that you stay fresh?
Yeah, I think I mentioned a little bit of it just a moment ago where I said deploy curiosity and ask questions. Nobody knows everything. And I think the first and most important step in learning and developing is asking questions. If you don't know the answer, go find it, whether it's through research online or chat GPT nowadays, or reaching out to someone in your network or asking for an introduction. That's really a great place to start. And I always encourage, the folks that I get to, coach and mentor, it's ask questions. And then there's no such thing as a silly question. It may feel like it, but oftentimes I have found in those moments, I've refrained from asking a question out of the fear, right? Because I'm uncomfortable of feeling silly or like it might sound dumb. And guess what? Someone else was wondering the same thing, but was also holding back from asking it, right? So at the end of the day, you have nothing to lose, everything to gain, and that gaining is learning, not only about yourself, but perhaps the profession, the discipline, whatever you're in. And it's going to be an advantage for you, give you a competitive edge and keep you fresh because you are keeping with the times, keeping with the changes, whether it's in tech, whether it's in the way things are done, best practices, whatever that is, staying, as fresh as you can with that content, with that information, I think really helps and enables us to continue on that path of learning and staying ahead.
Now, Jasmine, tell me, give us an example of somewhere else in your life that you stepped out of your comfort zone and what happened.
Yeah, yeah. So, earlier you heard me talk about that pivotal moment when I left the public education sector and went into tech. The next time that I can vividly recall is when I was in tech, I was doing all the things I said, was leaning in, embracing the challenges, learning, asking questions, and an opportunity presented itself to change into another role. And I found myself again in my head, like, no, 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 like you're doing great in this role. Stay in it. Like, what if you fail? What if this doesn't work out? What if it's not what you think it is? Um, and then it was like, no, no, no. I've earned this. I deserve to give myself an opportunity. And again, to do that, it requires getting out of my comfort zone. So, I had to do a lot of self talk and almost pump myself up to say, you've got this, you've put in the work, you have the information that you need, you're equipped, right, with knowledge around best practices, the cast of characters in the company, the things that you need to do a good job in this role. So don't hold back, go for it. And I did. So that job again was just so big for me because it provided a massive runway of learning, of insights, new business practices, new disciplines that I did not even know existed when I did my first round of data gathering and joined the tech world. And by the way, I worked for an amazing boss who saw my potential. And without me even realizing it at the time, I feel that he put me in a lot of uncomfortable situations.
Mm.
And at the time, I remember feeling like, is he giving me these responsibilities or projects? Fast forward, I'm so grateful because I learned the most in those moments, those projects, those engagements that I was thrown into. And it was back to that sink or swim. I have this mindset and this work ethic where I put pressure on myself to do a good job. And that's enabled me in a lot of ways because I put in the work to do a good job and deliver whatever is expected of me.
Well, and that's so important when we step out of that comfort zone and say, okay, everything is about learning. Nobody expects us to know it 100%. At least most amazing leaders don't. They
Yeah.
know that we can learn, they see our potential, we can step outside of that comfort zone. How do we get uncomfortable with the uncomfortable? They know that they've been through their own experience. As a matter of fact, most leaders have been now in leadership for years, and they
Yeah,
started the same way. They had to learn
that's
along.
right.
What would you say to your younger self?
I think, the way I grew up and a lot of my insecurities growing up, if I could go back in time, it would be ask questions or don't be afraid to ask questions and don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone, right? It, for me, getting out of my comfort zone has proven to be the times that I've learned the most, whether it's been about myself or the profession that I'm in. And asking for help, asking questions is not a sign of weakness. It's deploying curiosity. And that goes back to what I've said about it enables us to grow. It brings that learning that we need to develop. And if the goal is to advance in your career or to learn new things, none of that's going to happen if you don't, ask questions or take risks. So if I could go back and talk to my younger self, it would be that exactly that.
Be that little daredevil. Just go take risk. I love it. What would you give as final advice for people as they're moving forward? It doesn't matter whatever time they are in their career. Some people may be starting, some people may be mid-level, and some people may be moving on to other roles. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think, being uncomfortable is part of the process. So I would encourage the viewers to embrace it, as I do believe that it accelerates personal and professional development. And facing the uncomfortable moments is an opportunity for us to turn fear of failure into lessons and stepping stones toward that improvement. And it also, by the way, helps for me anyway, build confidence. And then I believe it will for the viewers as well. So being uncomfortable, it's not just about, enduring the challenges, but it's embracing them as those key elements and components that bring growth. And it's also a mindset. I talked about some self-talk a moment ago, and it's really a mindset that, you have to figure out what works for you. And when you figure that out, adopt it, practice it. And I think that really is where individuals can unlock that potential. But it requires work, it requires initiative, and yeah, deploying that curiosity that I talked about.
I love it. And it's so important for us to get outside of our comfort zone and be curious. I love the fact that you talked about personal and professional because a lot of us think it's like, oh, you just get out of your comfort zone on the personal level or on the professional level. It's like how we do anything is how we do everything.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the key to success is like to continue to grow, to continue to learn, to continue to be comfortable with the uncomfortable and creating amazing things because everything that we desire, again, is outside of our comfort zone. So, any last minute tips that you'd like to share?
Yeah, just stay curious, do your research, whatever it is that you're after, look into it and ask questions, tap into your network, um, don't limit yourself with what you know. The opportunities are endless in front of you. It's if you want it, go get it.
I love it. If you want it, go get it. I think that's the most important thing right there. Get everything is outside of the comfort zone every single time. Jazmin, thank you so much for being here and sharing your amazing insights and for your generosity and vulnerability on stepping outside the comfort zone. Hey, we all began there. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And to our viewers, I invite you to take 5 minutes, and in those 5 minutes, do 3 things as a result of being here today. What are the 3 things? And you already know exactly what it is that's important for you to do. I invite you to listen, go ahead and view this video over and over again. And you'll see different things, the different thoughts, insights are going to pop into your mind. I invite you every single time that you watch a video to go do 3 things and see how that moves you forward, stepping outside of your comfort zone. To each and every one of you, thank you for being here today. We'll see you on the next segment.